Today we're going to continue on with our NHL Season Preview series. We're jumping back to the Central Division, taking a look at the St. Louis Blues. This team actually looks a fair bit different, and do they have some unfinished business in the trade market heading into the year? We'll discuss all that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, today we're taking a look at the 21-22 season preview for the St. Louis Blues. Of course, last year, as we know, was a different, unique 56-game season. The year before that was cut short. We had bubble playoffs. This is going to be our first full 82-game season in some time, hopefully, if everything goes well. Now, first up, we're going to recap last year, see how the St. Louis Blues did. We're going to look at some of their top scorers, and then look at how this team has changed. Who are the players that are no longer here? Who are the new additions? And then we'll talk about their projected lineup and how we think they're going to do with all the moves they've made. So first up, let's get started and recap the 2020-21 season for the St. Louis Blues. So of course they ended up in the newly formed Western Division, as I mentioned, in a 56-game campaign. Fourth is where they finished with a record of 27-20-9 for 63 points. They did make the playoffs, but they lost in the first round to the Colorado Avalanche in a pretty overwhelming sweep to the Avs, who were the division champions. The Blues ended up scoring 169 goals while allowing 170, so obviously that gives them a -1 for a goal differential. They were in the middle of the pack when it comes to goals scored. 19th best though in goals against. That's certainly something that needs to get a little bit better going into next year. Of course, the power play actually was pretty good. They had a pretty solid power play, 23%. Penalty killing, however, was not so great at 78%. So now let's take a look at their leading scorers from last year. Led by David Perron, who seems to be aging like a fine wine. He actually seems to be getting better as he gets older. Normally players start to slow down, or the last few years since he's been back in St. Louis, he's picked up even more, leading the way with 19 goals, 39 assists, which was the most on the team, and 58 points, also the highest on the team. Captain Ryan O'Reilly was second in points with 54, led the way in goals with 24 or 30 assists, and Mike Hoffman scored 17 goals, 19 assists for 36 points, which was the third highest. So obviously, as you can see, Perron and O'Reilly really ran away with the team lead in goals and points, and after that, it fell off quite a bit. There's quite a gap there between those two guys and Mike Hoffman. Of course, they didn't have Vladimir Tarasenko for a big chunk of the season either, and that did not help. And of course, Tarasenko eventually asked for a trade in the offseason, citing issues with the medical side of things, not happy with how the shoulder surgeries have been handled. And obviously didn't seem to be happy about the fact that O'Reilly was named captain. There were some rumblings about that. But at this point, he is still a St. Louis Blue. And as the season starts, we expect him to still be there. But I would not completely rule out a trade here in the near future, especially if he looks like he is healthy and able to play and contribute. But we'll see what they end up doing, because obviously, if he's playing too well, they're going to want to keep him in St. Louis. So let's now take a look at the next segment of the video, where we analyze the exits and additions to see how this roster has changed. Now, looking first at the exits, we saw Sammy Blais be part of a trade over to the New York Rangers. Vince Dunn was their player they lost in expansion to the Seattle Kraken. Of course, Carl Gunnarsson ended up calling it a career and retiring. And Mike Hoffman and Jaden Schwartz both departed via free agency. Hoffman goes to the Montreal Canadiens, and Jaden Schwartz will be joining Vince Dunn with the Seattle Kraken. So, obviously some losses there that obviously will hurt a little bit. And of course, we have Zach Sanford, who was just traded to the Ottawa Senators in a deal just earlier in the past day here. The additions will hopefully make up for that, but there really wasn't a ton of new additions. They did have to re-sign Jordan Kyrou and Robert Thomas. The Thomas contract came right down to the wire. He's just signed a few days ago. So he and Kyrou are making pretty much the same money. They added Pavel Buchnevich, of course, who came over in that trade from the Rangers for Sammy Blais. Of course, he was a pending RFA, needed to get a new contract. Wasn't going to fit with the Rangers' payment structure and where they were at with their cap and lineup and everything, so they traded him to St. Louis. And of course, they pick up Brandon Saad, who was unable to re-sign in Colorado, again, mostly due to cap reasons. So they took advantage of that and brought in two pretty decent goal-scoring wingers. So Buchnevich and Saad should be able to give you comparable offensive production to Hoffman and Schwartz if everything really goes well. And of course, they acquired Logan Brown in a trade for the Ottawa Senators for Zach Sanford here just very recently as well. Now, they've also brought in a few players on some professional tryouts that are currently in training camp with the St. Louis Blues, and that includes veteran forwards James Neal and Michael Frolik. So we'll see if either of those are able to get an opportunity and to get a full-time contract here to stick with the Blues for the coming season. Now, before we jump into the next segment, which is going to be taking a look at the lineup and predictions, we do need to pause for a moment for one of our channel sponsors, Exter Smart Wallets. Top Shelf Hockey is proud to be sponsored by Exter. Forbes calls Exter the most successful smart wallet brand in the world. They certainly have high-quality products, high-grade leather. You can put all your cards in your wallet with RFID protection, and you can track it worldwide. That's the best part. You don't have to worry about losing your wallet and not being able to track it down. They have a great selection of products to choose from here, a variety of colors and styles, something to surely help for everyone. As you can see in the demonstration here for the product I have, this is a beautiful packaging, high quality. When you open it up, you get a high quality wallet with lots of slots for your cards. You have yourself a money clip if you want to carry cash on you here as well. And certainly, as you can see, the quality is outstanding. And here you can see the switch where you can help open up your cards. You just one little click and boom, everything fans out right in front of you. Easy to access. Your cards are protected. And here's the back where you have yet another slot. A terrific overall product, and I can't recommend these enough. Exter ships worldwide, and you can check out the link down below in the description as well as the pinned comment to buy yours today. So thanks very much for checking that out. If you're interested in looking at the wallets a little bit more detail and maybe making a purchase, there is a pin there is a link in the pinned comment down below that you can click on, which will take you right through and see what you can end up doing in that regard. Now, taking a look now from dailyfaceoff.com, we're going to take a look at the current depth chart and line projections for the St. Louis team heading into the upcoming season. Right now, they project the top line to be Perrin, O'Reilly, and Kyrou. They have line number 2 being Robert Thomas in the middle between Tarasenko and Brandon Saad. The third line being Braden Shen, Pavel Buchnevich, and Klim Kostin. Kostin has looked good so far in training camp and has actually also seen a little bit of time with the top unit too. So we'll see if he can carve himself out a full-time NHL season, which is something that they've been waiting for this prospect to break through and do. So that would be great news if they can do that. And then they have the fourth line being Bozak, Barbashev, and newly acquired Logan Brown. And of course, Sundqvist is still with the team on the roster, but unable to play at the beginning of the year. He likely will end up on long-term injury reserve while he continues to recover here from off-season surgeries. The D-Corps, no big surprises here. In my opinion, the top 4 especially, you've got Torrey Krug and Justin Falk, along with Scandella and the newly signed Colton Parayko, who signed a monster extension. And then, of course, you've got Bortuzzo and Mikula. And, of course, I wouldn't be completely surprised if Scott Perunovich, who is one of their top prospects, ends up battling for some playing time in there as well. So, to me, if you take a look at this lineup, I mean, the top 3 lines can all produce. They have 3 lines that can score. You have a 4th line that should be able to check and be good defensively. The top 4 D are pretty solid. The third line on their third pair, I mean, for the D, you know, maybe some concerns there, but at the end of the day, this roster does look pretty decent. Now, of course, in goal, you've got Jordan Binnington and Ville Husso. Now, where do I see them projecting in this new Central Division? Of course, we're kind of going back here to where things were a couple of years back. And to be honest, I think they're going to be a good team. I'm just not sure they're going to be a great team. So I do think they're going to be somewhere battling for a playoff spot. I can see them being a playoff team. That's a real possibility. Of course, being the Central, being much stronger than the Pacific, it is possible that we could even see as many as 5 teams get in from the Central. I think Colorado is probably the class of the division, but then you've got teams like the Blues, you've got teams like the Dallas Stars that are, in my opinion, will be better this year. They were decimated by injuries last year, had a COVID situation early on as well. You've got Winnipeg that are pretty good. Minnesota showed last year that they're greatly improved. And there's going to be, you know, even the Hawks, for example, adding Marc-Andre Fleury, Seth Jones, and all those guys, like they're going to be better too. So they also get Arizona, who moves over from the Pacific and make room for Seattle. So that will help adding a weaker team into the division for some teams to kind of get some more points on. But still, overall, it's going to be a pretty tough division. So I see them kind of being in that 3-4 range, in my opinion. They could even fall to 5th, to be honest, because, like I said, you take a look at, besides Colorado, you get You've got Minnesota, you've got Winnipeg, you've got Dallas, you've got Chicago, and they're all pretty good on paper. So it really boils down to who can execute the best here. But I do think they can at least be in the conversation and be a playoff team. If I have concerns, to be honest, and I've been saying this since they won the Stanley Cup, is I'm not convinced that Jordan Binnington is going to be able to duplicate what he did in that first season in the playoffs to get to the Cup. He's been kind of mediocre since then. They need him to be better to really lock down a spot. Don't have a ton of confidence in Billy Husso to play a ton of games. So to me, I do have some concerns. I'm not saying they're weak in goal, but I'm not sure that they're as elite as some of the other teams that they're kind of be fighting for spots on. So there is that concern. To me, like I said, they do have a solid forward core group here. The top three lines all have some scorers. The Tarasenko situation is going to be very interesting to watch as well. Will they end up keeping him? Will he be traded? I honestly think that it might be in their best interest to find a trader like once they get going and it can show that he's healthy. But he's been there a long time. Can they mend that relationship? I really don't know, but that's going to be a big factor here into where things go. I mean, obviously, like a rookie like Klim Kostin can come in. He's a pretty good physical player, can add some offense. Like if he can fit in that top nine and give you some good solid minutes there, that is going to be a nice boost for them as well, because they kind of are. For the most part, they're becoming an older team, but they have guys like Kyrou, they have guys like Thomas. If Koskinen can step up, they're kind of starting to level things out a little bit here. But I think they can be competitive. I think they can be a playoff team, but I'm not sure that they're going to be able to do a lot of playoff damage. I just think that they're kind of in a tough division and are going to have a lot of tough opponents, and it's just not going to be smooth sailing. But they should be a decent team as always, but for a long time, even before the Blues won the Cup, going back, not even so much the immediate past before that, but there was a stretch for probably 15 to 20 years where they were good. They were quite often a playoff team. They just weren't great and never really went too far past the first round. So we'll see what they can do. I think they're kind of falling back into that category now, but we'll see if they can prove me wrong here and show that they can be closer to what they were when they won the Stanley Cup. So let me know what your thoughts are on the Blues' upcoming season. Let me know your thoughts on the moves they made and where you think they can finish in the upcoming year. If you're new to this channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We will keep you up to date with all the latest news, rumors, and analysis on all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.